Have you ever checked the temperature on your phone, watched a weather report, or traveled to another country and suddenly felt confused by the numbers on the screen? In one place, a comfortable day is 25 degrees, while in another, it's 77 degrees, and yet somehow they mean the exact same thing. It can feel like the world is speaking two different numerical languages for something as simple as how hot or cold it is. But behind these numbers lies a fascinating story of science, history, and human decisions that shaped how we measure temperature today. And today we will unravel why the world couldn't agree on a single way to measure heat, right here on History of Simple Things. To understand the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius, we first need to step back into the early days of scientific measurement. Before thermometers were standardized, people relied on subjective descriptions, words like warm, cool, or freezing. These descriptions worked well enough in daily life, but they weren't precise, and they certainly weren't useful for science. As scientists began to study heat and temperature more seriously, they needed a reliable, consistent way to measure it. This is where Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit enters the story. In the early 1700s, Fahrenheit developed one of the first widely used thermometers using mercury, which expanded and contracted predictably with temperature changes. But just as important as the tool itself was the scale he created to measure temperature. Fahrenheit's system might seem strange today, but it was actually based on careful choices. He set 0 degrees as the temperature of a mixture of ice, water, and salt, a stable, reproducible cold point at the time. Then he set 32 degrees as the freezing point of water, and 212 degrees as the boiling point. This created a scale with 180 degrees between freezing and boiling, allowing for fine-grained measurements. One advantage of this system is that it provides more increments between everyday temperatures, which can make small differences feel more precise. A few decades later, another scientist, Anders Celsius, proposed a simpler and more intuitive system. Instead of using complex reference points, Celsius based his scale entirely on water. In his original version, 0 degrees was the boiling point of water, and 100 degrees was the freezing point, but this was later reversed to the version we use today. 0 degrees for freezing and 100 degrees for boiling. This system, now known as Celsius, quickly gained popularity, especially in scientific communities. It was easy to understand, easy to teach, and directly tied to natural phenomena that anyone could observe. The simplicity of dividing the range between freezing and boiling into 100 equal parts made it a natural fit for the metric system, which is built around powers of 10. Meanwhile, Fahrenheit remained widely used in certain parts of the world, particularly in the United States. Over time, this created a kind of global split. Most countries adopted Celsius as part of the metric system, while a few continued using Fahrenheit for everyday temperature readings. So why didn't the world just settle on one scale? The answer has less to do with science and more to do with history and habit. Once a system becomes deeply embedded in a country's culture, used in weather reports, cooking, education, and daily conversation, it becomes difficult to change. People grow accustomed to thinking in those numbers. For someone used to Fahrenheit, 70 degrees instantly feels comfortable, while for someone used to Celsius, that same feeling is tied to around 21 degrees. There's also an interesting psychological difference between the two systems. Fahrenheit is often described as more human-centered. In this scale, 0 degrees roughly represents a very cold day, while 100 degrees represents a very hot one. Most everyday temperatures fall between these two numbers, making it feel intuitive in daily life. On the other hand, Celsius is more science-centered, anchored to physical properties of water and aligned with the metric system. Another way Fahrenheit and Celsius differ is in how easy they are to use in calculations. Celsius fits neatly into the metric system, which is based on multiples of 10. This makes it more convenient in science, education, and even everyday measurements like cooking or experiments. The numbers are easier to work with, especially when converting or estimating. Fahrenheit doesn't follow this base 10 pattern, which can make it feel less straightforward when doing math. But instead of being calculation-friendly, it focuses more on practical use. It gives more detailed readings for daily temperatures, which some people find helpful when deciding what to wear or how the weather might feel. Another interesting difference is how people describe temperature changes. In Celsius, people often speak in broader terms, saying it's around 25 degrees or close to 30. In Fahrenheit, people tend to be more specific, mentioning exact numbers like 72 or 78. This reflects how each scale naturally encourages either simplicity or precision. In the end, both systems work perfectly fine, they just approach temperature in different ways. Celsius keeps things clean, simple, and easy to use across many fields, while Fahrenheit offers a more detailed way to describe how temperature feels in everyday life. So the next time you check the temperature, you'll know that those numbers aren't just telling you how hot or cold it is, they're showing you two different ways of understanding the very same thing. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.